Hello makers, I'm Catherine Harris with Sheer Stitchery, and welcome to week 3 of our quilt along for the Summer Sampler Quilt Vintage Restyle. Let's get to it. This week's block, right behind me here, is called the City Center block, and it was designed by Fran Guilick of Cotton and Joy. Now, she decided to do a fresh take on a traditional log cabin design. Now, traditionally, a log cabin design starts in the center, and you build the pieces circular, going around from the inside going out. But in this instance, Fran decided that she was going to take that center block and make it the corners and build it out as such, giving us a really unique block. Now, I also wanted to show you how you can take this block and turn it into a whole quilt, and it gives a really nice mod design with these squares when you're building out that quilt. Now, I really enjoyed making this up, and I have a couple of tips for you guys if you are doing any log cabin blocks, whether it's this one in particular or a traditional log cabin block. Let's get to those tips. Now, our first tip is going to be ensuring that you cut everything very precisely. It is incredibly important to ensure that everything is measured out exactly, because if you're off even just by a little bit, your block is going to be off and it's not going to measure the size that you need. Now, part and parcel with that is also ensuring that you have accurate seam allowances. So when you stitch them together, I would suggest switching from your regular presser foot to a 1/4 inch foot. Now, this foot has a guide on the presser foot that you can follow the edge of your fabric with, and it makes it very easy to get a nice 1/4 inch seam. Now, when you are done stitching up that first seam, what I like to do after I stitch any of those seams, especially if I'm wanting to do something that's very precise, is I like to measure it to ensure that it is still square and I didn't go off on any area. That being said, if you are finding that your fabric is stretching a little bit at the end and it's poking out a bit, it may be because the feed dogs aren't pushing the fabric through evenly on both the bottom and the top, because of course the feed dogs are only on the bottom. You may want to switch to a walking foot, and you can actually purchase a walking foot with a 1/4 inch guide on it so that you do get those accurate seam allowances. That being said, I've never had to do that personally on any quilts that I've pieced, and that 1/4 inch foot does me perfectly fine. Next up, you want to make sure that you are pressing those seam allowances, and you always want to press the seam allowances out towards the seam that you have just pressed. And if all else fails, the thing that you could do, instead of traditionally piecing it like a traditional log cabin, you could also foundation paper piece it, and you will get it precise every single time. There is a little bit more waste when you do it that way, and it takes some getting used to in terms of foundation paper piecing, but it will be absolutely perfect with those seams. That being said, if you would like to do your own log cabin block, I have a downloadable PDF that gives you the cut guides as well as how to piece them together for both the 6.5 inch block as well as the 12.5 inch block that you guys can download and practice on. And if you would like to join the Summer Sampler Quilt Along, you can check the link down below, and I have a link where you can access that. And the fabrics that I decided to use for my Summer Sampler are from Northcott, and I will also link all of those down below. Just check your local quilt shop to see where you can grab them. If you guys have any questions, do let me know. And if you're not already a subscriber, do consider subscribing. Until next time, makers, let's get our sewspiration on.